First, I'd like to show you just where you can find the samples. So if you click here on the overview page of the Code RealTime extension, you will come directly to the place on GitHub where all the samples are located. So there you can either just clone this repository, it's public, or just download the sample you're interested in. You can also go here to the documentation to arrive at the landing page. And then if you click on the samples here, you will come to a page that describes the samples in a little bit more detail. Each of them also has a README file, but if you want to just know what they're doing, you can click here and read a little bit about it and see what concepts this sample is illustrating. And I will now show this token ring, which is a new sample in this release. So this application uses the TCPServer Library, and that capsule that inherits from the TCP server is called server, and it's marked in red here. So the way it works is that when the application runs, it exposes a TCP port where you can send JSON strings, and those JSON strings are then transformed into event injection that can basically happen on any of the ports of this server capsule. So this one only has one, this token manager, but here we can send events into this token manager implementation. The application is very simple, and some of you may know the token ring communication protocol. It was an old communication protocol that was done at a time when there was a problem that multiple computers in a network couldn't send at the same time. So they were circulating a token, and only the computer that had the token had the right to send. And in this sample, the top capsule has a command prompt, which allows you to inject the token on this server port. But it can also come on this way here from the server in case it comes from another application to which it is connected in a ring structure. So if we go here and look at the transformation configuration, here you see that we have two threads. The reason is that the top capsule reads from the command prompt, so it will be blocked while doing that. So we run the top capsule in the main thread, and then we run the two other capsules in this server thread. So this server and the token manager. So I will build this sample. I think maybe it was already built, so it was quick. And now I can start 3 instances of this application if I open my 3 command prompts I have prepared here. And each application takes 2 arguments. The port is the local TCP port, and the remote port specifies the port of another application to which it is connected. So the first one here runs on port 12301 and connects to another application. Sorry. So now this is running and waiting for something to come on the command line. And I will run the second one on 302 connected to 303, and the last one on 303 connected back again to 301. And now if I'm sending a token starting from up here, it will generate a token. Each token carries an ID just to show the identity of the token. So this one got the ID 12301_1. And now you see it's being sent between these applications. So I can inject another one here, for example. Now I have 2 tokens circulating in the ring independently. So that's the simple functioning of this sample. Now I will terminate them, and I will start the second and the third again. But the first one, I will now use the RT-Debugger to run. And as Rajesh showed, the easiest way to create a launch configuration is to simply find your project here in this list. So it's a token ring, and it will create my 2 launch configurations, one for launching and one for attaching. I need to have these arguments, same as I copied from the command line. well, actually not this part because that's added automatically, but I need to specify the minus port equals 12301 and the remote port equals 12302. And now I should be able to click here to launch this debug session. And then click resume to make it run. And now in the debug console, we get the same printout as we would expect. So now I can, of course, inject events from here as I did before, but I can also now use the RTBugger to find the token manager capsule instance and find the server port and emulate what would happen if this instance gets a token sent on this port. So this has the type artist string, which is one of the target artist's built-in types. And when you specify the data, you need to use the ASCII format of that data. So for artist string, it means you need to use the quotes around the value. And now if we maybe minimize this a little bit so we can see all at the same time, you see that now the tokens circulate between these three applications as before. And we can inject a second token here to make it run now, or inject two tokens circulating in the ring. So this is how this sample works, and it illustrates mainly how this TCPServer library can be used to connect applications with each other.
Sure.
Any questions?
And I'll be demoing Node.js web application, which works with the TCP range counter sample. As its name implies, the sample implements a counter that starts at a minimum value and increments until it reaches a maximum value. The Node.js web app uses the RT-test probe node module, and you can read about this node module in the NPM site. Specifically, the node module contains a number of JavaScript utilities, which lets you send and invoke events to Code RealTime that uses the TCPServer Library. It also lets you intercept outgoing events sent and invoked by the Code RealTime application. Let's see. So the key part of the web app is the index JavaScript file. And you can see the web app is actually, the code for it is packaged in the TCP range counter sample itself under this client-UI folder. So the important and key part of it is the index JavaScript file. And as you can see, it uses and requires the RT-test probe node module. And basically it uses it to send events like resume counting, set max, set min, and delta. Delta has to do with the increment that you want to use when counting. So here we have the top terminal session, and this is where the TCP range counter was sample was started, and it's listening for the TPT requests on port 12345. So the sample, once you start it, starts counting up to its maximum 10 by default. Here we have a node terminal session that was started to start the Node.js web app. And first, npm install is done to download the packages and dependencies that the web app requires. And then npm start is entered, and then the TCP range counter client would listen on port 3000 by default of course, it will then send the events to port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, since that's what the top, range counter sample is listening on. So if you, here's the web app here. You can select a different event type, and I'm going to specify that the maximum number is 20. I happen to be running the sample on my local VM, and since the port that the range counter is listening on, by default, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I submit this, then you could look at the fact that the TCP range counter sample now received the event, and it also acknowledged it by indicating that the max value was set to 20. So then I could change that to the minimum amount that I want to start counting at. So I submit that. And then in the top terminal session where the TCP range counter sample is has started is set to 1. And also I could change it to the delta event to say 1. It's acknowledged that that event was received. And finally, I could set it to resume, and it can resume counting.